Developing Tomorrow's Leaders is a podcast that is all about educating, supporting, and inspiring the next generation of leaders.
Well, welcome to another episode of Developing Tomorrow's Leaders. I am your host, Antoine Thompson, or Coach T. And today I am excited, as I'm always excited with the guest I have on. My guest today is a child development coach, a best-selling author, a keynote speaker, trainer, and a mentor. She's one of the brightest minds in childhood training, coaching, and mentoring today, besides myself, of course, but I'm not a best-selling author. She is dynamic and an engaging leader, innovator, and an educator who specializes in childhood training, education, development, and change management in families. I hope you all will help me welcome Aliesha Embleton all the way from Australia to Developing Tomorrow's Leaders. How are you, Aliesha?
Hi, Antoine. I'm fantastic. Thank you. How about yourself?
I am doing stupendously marvelous now that I'm on here talking with you, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you. And I thank you so much for coordinating time with our time difference. For those who don't know, it's evening here where I am, and it's morning where she is in Australia. So thank you so much.
The wonders of technology, right? Being
Yeah,
able to connect us. It's fantastic.
absolutely. Well, if you're okay with it, I want to just jump right in, and I just want to ask you the first question is, can you tell us, a bit about your journey and what inspired you to become a child development coach?
Yeah, of course. So it's been a bit of a longer journey for me. I've been working with adults in a professional development space for well over a decade now, and I just really felt this calling, having seen my own stepsons, having seen my friends' kids, having seen so many of these children that are in my life, having watched them go through the journey of that childhood development and the unique requirements that they actually have at each of the different stages through development. There's just this life's purpose that I couldn't not step into. And so, yeah, moved across and have been working with children now in looking primarily at that middle childhood. So primary school is what we call it in Australia, middle school for America. But looking at supporting kids in that unique phase of their development where they're no longer in that early childhood. So that, their needs and what they actually are looking for in life has changed, but they're also not at that stage of adolescence. They're really in this unique middle ground. And that's kind of where I really help to step in and help these kids learn these fundamental skills that they need to then be able to navigate adolescence, to be able to navigate adulthood, to be able to then have these skills to be so successful in life and learning them early so that they're well practiced and really ingrained in them. The earlier that we can teach these kids resilience and authenticity and entrepreneurial spirit are the three that I focus on. But the earlier that we can teach these kids all of these different facets, for example, resilience and how to be able to deal with challenges, the earlier we can teach them how to work through problems, it actually lets them practice on problems that are quite small on the grand scheme of things. And then they can start evolving and practicing on that next scale and the next scale. And then by the time they're an adult, they're really well developed in this space. They've been practicing for years and years. They know how to be able to handle these challenges. So the earlier that we can actually get in and start teaching them, the more ingrained these amazing skills then become in our children. So I couldn't not, step into this life's purpose. It's an area of passion and interest of mine.
Yeah, as is for me. And I wanted to ask this question because I think there's a common thread here, and I'll ask you about the school systems there. And I know here in the States, these are things that are not readily taught and instilled in kids in schools. And I think about you're a mom. I'm not a parent, but I work with kids, and I feel as though I am a parent to them, a surrogate to some. And I feel as though what happens in the home should be reinforced in the schools. So kind of to your point about teaching about resiliency and dealing with conflicts and even relationships. I'm really big on relationships and communication. but being consistent with what's being taught and what's being reinforced. And I think that's why the work that you do is so important, because you can focus primarily on that and not worry so much about is it being reinforced. And in Australia, is that a common theme as well?
Yeah, look, it definitely is. And I think as parents, we're all wanting to be able to try and reinforce and have that messages so consistent in their entire life. It is definitely something that we want for our children. What we're teaching at home is also being taught in the schools, and that they're kind of getting this consistency in the messaging that they're receiving. And look, there is definitely some of that happens, and I think there's an area where we need, as parents, to be able to add another element into the learning. I think there's a third piece to this pie. We've got the school, we've got our home, but I think there's this third piece that is sort of the area that I work in, where it's that personal development piece, and being able to develop these sorts of fundamental skills, being able to, really evolve as our world continues to expand and evolve. So, I think there is very much a piece here where we can add more as parents, and being able to really help support that development.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you mentioned resiliency, and I know I mentioned conflict. A friend of mine calls it conflict transformation. Now we call conflict resolution. Are there other areas that stand out to you that you feel that the young adolescents are struggling with? I always feel as though, like I say, communication is one, and the importance of relationships. And the big thing when I talk about relationships is the understanding and distinguishing between communication with adults versus communication with their peers and their friends. And that's not a linear process, and there is an understanding that has to be accepted. Is that part of your training, or is that something that you focus on?
It is part of it. What I focus on covers a wide range of things. Resilience is obviously part of one of the three areas that I focus around. And within resilience, we have things like that emotional regulation, the coping skills, the, being able to bounce back when there are these challenges, being able to sort of develop these kids in all of these sorts of different areas. I think the other two, so at least in Australia, resilience is actually becoming quite a big movement, which is fantastic. And I love that so many of the schools are starting to engage in teaching resilience. I think where we're missing, though, are these other two particular pieces, because resilience alone is not enough. We need to develop, I coin them as authenticity, and the third pillar being entrepreneurial spirit. So authenticity for kids is about being able to understand what they're feeling, being able to be true to what they're feeling, being able to be their true self, and all of these sorts of different elements of authenticity. It all really stems back to self-trust. And we need to teach our children to trust themselves. And in doing so, that then creates a level of respect both for themselves and for the people around them, which links to what you're talking about with the different sort of levels of communication and the different sort of approaches there. And then the third pillar that I focus on is what I call entrepreneurial spirit. And it's kind of a mindset piece, really. And what it's really focused on is that if we think of a successful entrepreneur, we think of things about how do they view failure. Well, they just see it as an opportunity to learn something and to then move to the next exciting piece thereafter. It's a stepping stone for them. And creation and innovation, I mean, these are some of the things that they need to be able to come up with ideas. Having that growth mindset in being able to look at things not as a static, fixed, it is what it is and there's nothing I can do to change it. That's not it at all. There is so much that you can do to change things. If you want to learn a new skill, if you want to develop something, you can. and it's having that growth mindset to understand that it is a learning journey and that you're just on that journey. You don't have to know everything today. What you know today is fantastic. And then what you're going to learn tomorrow is even better. And so it's being able to teach these kids these 3 different areas, and with that, how they engage with themselves. If we think of self-talk, that's a big challenge for a lot of children. We're seeing it come through in the mental health challenges that, at least in Australia, the statistics are startling. And when I did look at the stats for America a couple of months ago, I know it was very sort of similar over there, where here it's 13.6% of children aged between 4 and 11 have some form of mental health challenge. So that could be anxiety, depression, whatever other sort of elements that is. But that's huge. And 50% of the adult mental health challenges are starting in childhood. So we need to develop these skills in our kids so that they have that self-trust. They are able to really have that positive self-talk, be able to approach the world with that growth mindset, to be able to engage both, as I said, internally but also externally with people in that effective way. These are all just such big things that we need to be educating our children around. And all of it will develop confidence, but like I was saying, resilience and confidence alone, that's just not enough. We need to do more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're explaining that, as a word that always pops up, and I think it encompasses a lot of what you're talking about. And it's about empowering kids. I'm always reiterating this statement of, I like to empower kids to be in control of their own success, and that's what you're doing. Empowering them and understanding and how to be resilient and showing that authenticity and also that entrepreneurial spirit. And I think the part of that I always focus on too is, we can do as much as we want and try to do with the kids, but we both know, and as a parent, it's so incumbent upon parents to be a part of that process too, because kids inherently want to please their parents and want their parents to be proud of them. So for them to take those steps of success, it's great to pat yourself in the back, but you love to see people come along with you and celebrate those victories with you. So I think the work you're doing in these 3 areas are really important. But I would definitely implore parents to be a part of that process with their kids too. And I know that's what you do as well. I just want to kind of throw that in.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I very much see that parents are a key in this journey for their children. That's why with the work that I do one-on-one with children, it's actually both with the kids as well as with the parents. I have a one-on-one session with the child once a week, and then I also have a one-on-one session with the parents once a week, because it is both. The parents are so critical in this journey. And they have such an amazing role in being able to develop these kids.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how, or if I know here in the States, we have this huge issue with parental involvement, and specifically with sporting events and how it affects their kids, not just from the athletic aspect of it, but how it affects their self-confidence and their self-esteem. And I only mention it in sports because it's such a huge issue here, but it affects every facet of a child's life, be it sports, any other extracurricular activity, and the day-to-day activities that they go through. And that's why I think, to your point, it's so that parents are such a vital part of that. And I think that for them, and this is just me speaking, parents need to understand, experts like yourself and professionals like yourself, myself, and others, we want to be a part of the solution, and we want them to be a part of the solution as well. We're all trying to accomplish the same thing. I think sometimes parents feel as though we're trying to impede on their space, and in reality, we're trying to be a part of the process. So I love the fact that you meet with both the students and with the parents, because that truly reinforces that.
Yeah, exactly. And, if we think of the parents' role at a sporting event, for example, the kids out there, they're running around on the soccer field or the football field or whatever it might be. And even just the little things as a parent around language that we use in the moment. For example, a lot of parents you'll see on the sideline going, "Oh, bad luck, don't worry, you've missed that goal. It's just bad luck." Well, these are language pieces that we can actually change to then actually reinforce the kinds of things that we're wanting to hear as parents, and being able to sort of reinforce that internal locus of control, really, by helping kids to understand that it is actually within their scope of their control. So instead of saying something like bad luck, just throwing something out there like great effort instead. Little language tweaks that as parents that we can do really make big shifts and impacts unconsciously. A lot of these kids aren't realizing that there's these unconscious shifts that are happening, but these are little tweaks that we can make as parents to then be able to also help support the kids on these journeys.
Well, you'll love this. When I was coaching basketball, there's you may be familiar with the term playing time. All the kids want a lot of playing time because they want to be on the field or the court a lot of the time. Well, I replaced that. I no longer use that phrase, and I've replaced it with contributing to the success of the team. And the way I explain it is, you can, being that I coach basketball, I'll use this as an example. If you were to play 20 minutes in a game, score 2 points, get 4 fouls and no rebounds, and I play for 4 minutes, I score 10 points, get 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and I get the game-saving rebound to win the game, who's contributed the most to the success of the team in less time? I did. So inherently what happened was the kids started making the most of their opportunity, regardless of the length of time. So it just kind of goes along what you're talking about, is you change the wording and the meaning of certain things. It just changes how they think and how they process. When they process differently, their goals change and they're a little bit more focused.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. It's around how can we get the kids to focus on what's actually the area that they should be focusing on. What are these positive elements for them? Where is it going to actually support that growth into just the wonderful human beings that we want them to be? And there is so many little things. And this is what we need to remember as parents, is it's not going to be one big item that's going to change the world for them. It's lots and lots of little pieces. If we think of putting together a puzzle, one big piece isn't going to do a whole puzzle. It's lots of little pieces that actually create that amazing picture that we see at the end.
See, we're a lot alike, because what I always tell kids is it's the little things that make the biggest difference.
It
And
is.
that's what you just described. It really is. So everybody focuses on the big picture. I want to be this. Well, it takes baby steps to get to the top, right?
Yep.
It's one foot right in front of the other. And I agree wholeheartedly. That's the little things. And that's where I think a lot of focus misses. And I know that's what you focus on with the areas of authenticity, resilience, and entrepreneurial spirit, is the little steps. It's the little things that make the biggest difference. But I did want to ask you, in conjunction with what you do, did you have maybe some success stories or stories that you, or clients that you've worked with, that you want to share with us? 'Cause I think it really would be beneficial for people to see the results of the work that you do.
Yeah. Look, I think there are many that sort of come to mind, and every single child has their own success in some way. And this is the thing that we need to remember as parents, is that there is no measure of what is going to be the bar for success. It's going to be different for every single person. And that's just part of being able to also get in and really understand, where's the kid at and where do they need to be? And then just helping them along that journey. But I think there's sort of one child in particular that comes to mind. And for them, the circumstances that were at play were around a family dynamic change. I have to talk very generally,
Sure,
obviously to maintain privacy there. But, there was a family dynamic change that occurred. And throughout that process, and it occurred at quite pivotal sort of time for that child, And it really sort of rocked the situation for them, rocked that boat. And for this child, it actually, because they weren't engaging and actually really noticing what the emotions were and processing and actually engaging through that particular situation, they ended up creating an environment where they were quite shut down from a lot of how they were feeling. And all of it, when you kind of unpacked it a little bit further, it actually was really stemming back to this place of they didn't have that sense of safety anymore because the stability of their world had changed. And we need to, a part of working with the parents through that was understanding that there are things that we can do to create stability in a new way. And then over time, being able to develop that sense of safety again for the child. And then being able to, obviously, from there, start rebuilding the resilience, rebuilding that connection with their emotions, with, trusting themselves. So it was quite a long journey. And, I think for this particular child, it is an ever-going, it will be an ever-evolving journey for them, as it is for every single one of us. If we think of who we were 5 years ago, even as adults, think of who we were 5 years ago, that'll be a different person to who we are today. We are constantly evolving and changing just with the situation and the environment around us. And, so it will be the same for this child. But it was fantastic to be able to see them start to find stability and start to be able to really build that safety back again. Because with that, we then started seeing some of that resilience come back. And we started seeing them be able to show a little bit more personality again, and have those jokes and be able to just show a little bit more of themselves. That they weren't sort of this very closed off sort of person anymore. So it was fantastic to see that cracking open and just sort of seeing them become them again.
Well, for those that aren't watching the video of this, you're just listening to it. Alicia's facial expression describing this experience speaks volumes to her compassion and her love for what she does. Because as a youth personal growth and development coach, I can appreciate not only the story, but the way you told it, heartfelt. And it's a testament to the work that you do. But more importantly, it's a reward for the kids. It's a blessing for the families that get to work with you. So I applaud you for the work that you're doing. That's good stuff. Really good stuff.
Thank you, Anton. I just feel so blessed to be able to do this work.
Oh, absolutely. No, I totally understand.
So important.
It really is. It really is. And we need to keep having more conversations like this and letting other people know. So I do appreciate you taking time to share that with us as well. Now, in the intro, I mentioned in your bio of you being a best-selling author. And I did make my little comment. I'm an author, but I'm not a best-selling author. So you went up on me. And I see behind you also. And I want to shift really quickly to that. Some insights from your book, From Seed to Sapling. Now, your book's become a #1 bestseller. I'd love for you to share the core message of your book and what you hope readers will take away from it.
Yeah, of course. So the book, From Seed to Sapling. Look, it's a book to help parents really along this journey. Every single parent out there wants something better for their child. They want their child to be able to have the most amazing future. And what the book really sort of talks to are some of the challenges that are being experienced. We are living in a very different world to what our kids are living in. The challenges that we faced and that we grew up with as parents are completely different to the challenges that the children are actually facing. And so as parents, we need to be able to understand the environment and what's actually at play for these kids. What's all the research actually telling us? And so the book sort of provides some of those insights around what we're seeing. And then, for Australia, for example, it's a fantastic time when it comes to the research at the moment, in 2021, I think it was October 2021, we had the very first strategy released that was focused on children mental health in Australia. And so this is an amazing time in Australia in that this is a growing sort of area of focus, but it's sort of talking to all of these points around what is this, what is the research showing, what are we seeing in these children at the moment? And then it goes through some tips and tricks and some tools for parents to be able to really start instilling these 3 fundamentals. So it will sort of provide a little bit of information around why are they important? Why do we actually need to be looking at these 3 different areas? And then it will take you through some strategies on how to bring some of that into your life. So there's, various different exercises and all sorts of things in the book. So it's really about being able to support those parents in transforming the landscape in what the child's life actually is at the moment, and that, I guess, the possibilities for their future thereafter.
It's great that you're a child development coach and mentor, but a lot of what you do encompasses parents too, and being able to provide them with tips along with working with their kids is the way that you reinforce the work that you do by giving them physically a blueprint, if you will, of
Exactly.
how to reinforce that. So no, I think that's great, and congratulations on your best-selling status on that. And you got another book in the works, or?
There will hopefully be one coming next year, but we'll just see. There's definitely some thoughts coming through around what I would love to write down next. Sorry, nothing in the works just yet, but watch this space.
that was kind of a challenge to plant that seed, so you get another. No pun intended on that, right? So a couple questions for you, and this is just generally speaking. How can we as a society do a better job to ensure that we're raising kids to be well prepared for the future?
That's a huge question. And I think there is so many different things that we can do. And I think as parents, we need to remember that we don't have to do everything today. It's, again, little steps, little journeys. Let's think of what's the one thing that we can start on next. So because it can seem really quite overwhelming for parents to really look at how do they approach all of this? How do they start to develop these new skills and bring back some of what we used to see as fundamental in the development of our kids? So I think for parents, it's really around being able to find one thing that they can do and focus on. Let's really develop that particular item. So it might be that they look initially to develop around, like a gratitude mindset or a growth mindset, or it could be how there is that perception of failure. It could be around that self-trust. It could be coping skills. The list is endless. But, let's find one item and remember that that's going to be a journey in and of itself. If we think of something like coping skills for resilience, there are 5 different categories of coping skills. And then within those categories, there's an endless list of different types of coping skills. So, it's being able to test and try and experiment and not be scared to try something new. And remember that it's a journey. And the other thing that I would probably say for parents is that along this journey, be open to learning something as a parent yourself as well. There is constantly things that our kids can be teaching us. And so it's about being able to, be open on that journey as well with our children. So as we're teaching them various different coping skills, let's go to the yoga class with them. Let's do that, meditation with them. Let's read together. Let's actually try different things. And then some of them will work and the kid will really love, they might really engage with reading. And so then it becomes a daily routine that they spend 10 minutes just focused in on that time to just read and reset towards the end of the day. Or it could be a mindfulness practice. It could be that we work out that a fidget spinner a little fidget ring, that works really well. There's so many different things. But being able to exactly. Yes, the fidget spinners, they're fantastic. I've got a little fidget ring as well. Like there's so many different things. But seeing all of these different things, testing them out, trying them out, and being open as a parent to seeing, is there something in it that we would love to be able to take on as well? Is there an element where we can actually create that as part of the family routine? Noting that one of the biggest protective factors for resilience is the parent-child bond. So being able to develop and strengthen that relationship, is there an opportunity there? And it's about finding these opportunities that are not forced and they just become organic and natural in the daily routine. And those will then evolve to be so impactful, both to the child as well as to the family unit.
Yeah, when you mentioned the part about parents being willing to learn from their kids, I'm just like, that is so important because you mentioned earlier, kids are growing up in a different era than when we grew up. So that's really changed how they learn and how they process, and it's different than how I learned and now you learned and processed. And kids have so much to offer if parents are willing to understand, if they are willing to open and set their prides aside, if you will, in some instances, and be willing to learn. And like you said, join into that process with their kids. It also helps their relationship long term, not just in the immediate, but it also helps them long term. So some great. Well, I know you knocked that question out of the park, so that's why I asked that question. I mean, great answer. Great answer.
And I think it opened the door for us to be able to, just talk through so many of these really critical things, like that parent-child bond. That is one of the most protective factors, like one of the most significant protective factors for developing resilience in our kids. And it's one of the areas, having that real critical relationship and that real sort of deep connection between the parent and the child, that is one of the things that actually helps them fundamentally develop all of these different skills.
Yeah.
Being able to have that connection with their parents, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it truly is. And I love to watch kids interact with their parents, and both, not always in a good way, but it tells you a lot about where a child is based on that relationship that they have with with their parents. And sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's not. You can tell that there's an underlying issue there, but you cannot really identify it, but it's there. But it also gives you a starting point. When you're working with kids, I think is also, if you're observant and not trying to be the problem solver of everything, because you're not coming in just go, okay, here's what you got to do, this is what you need to do. It's all about a process, and it's about building that relationship and that bond so that you can grow with that child as well as with those parents.
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason that I do my one-on-one work over a span of 12 weeks. We need that time to be able to really get to know each other, to develop that relationship, and to be able to create that meaningful change through the journey, that relationship with the parents. And as parents, understanding through that journey as well that our own role modeling is actually something that is going to be quite an impact on kids as well. They're learning from us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If yeah. And so, if we're showing them that self-care, self-compassion, that, coping strategies, being our authentic selves, if we're demonstrating these things to our children, they're naturally going to be picking up some of these learnings. It's just going to be part of their organic development. They don't necessarily need to have that same level of targeted attention because they're seeing that role modeling from the parents. And then the targeted attention that they do get is taking them to the next level again. And so it's just fantastic. But it's, again, remembering that as parents, we're role modeling. And so, being on that learning journey with them because they're learning from us.
I want to go back. Something I meant to mention, but I didn't when I was asking you to share an example, a story which you shared. I think it's important to learn listeners understand too that as coaches that work with kids and work with parents, we could care less if it takes 3 months or 3 years, as long as we get the results, the results that they want and that we want, then it's a success. And I think a lot of people, I know there's some people that promote, oh, I can get this done in a certain amount of time. You can't put a timetable on what you can achieve until you're able to identify and connect with a child and or with a family, see where you are and evaluate, and then put in the steps and the procedures necessary to reach the next step and the next goal and the next goal. And for me, I've been in the same situation. There's been some that you've been able to reach in a month, and others I've had ones taken 4 years. But the relationship that we have now is exactly the same as if both of them were done in a month, or if both were done in 4 months. So I just wanted to interject that.
And it's a great point. Thank you. The example that I was talking to, that particular child, that was not just 3 months. That was not just 12 weeks. That was a much longer journey that we were on. That was years of development to be able to really get them to that point. So it isn't just necessarily going to be for 12 weeks. For some kids, it is. As you say, for some, there might only be a need to develop just for a month or for 3 months or whatever that might be. For some, it could take years to be able to really get there. But it's about, what do we want to be able to instill in that kid? And then being able to just be committed to that journey and helping them in actually reaching that sort of developmental stage and that goal where they're needing to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% right. Well, Aliesha, this has been great. I do have a couple more things I wanted to do. First, before, as a question I ask all my guests, and that is to share with myself and our audience the individual or individuals that have been most influential in your life and why.
Look, that's a really interesting question. And I think for me, I'll probably be saying something that's just a little bit unique, in that for me, I would actually say that the most influential person that I've had in my life is actually being myself. And where I come from with that is that it's being able to have that trust in myself and being able to, look at when there are challenges, when there have been journeys of, obstacles and things that I've been coming across, being able to step back and actually go, okay, well, it's not the easiest option, but it could be the most rewarding to actually stay true to me and being able to create the life that I want. And, I've been able to understand what that life is by looking at the different examples of the people who are in my world and have been in my world throughout, my entire lifetime. So being able to have that reflection and trusting myself to really pursue my own passions, my own interests, and, looking at what's really sort of shaped me into the person that I am today, and being able to learn from that sort of real deep, authentic fulfillment that actually pursuing my interests, my passions, and really my life's purpose and what sort of truly means to me. It's not always been the easiest pathway, but by doing that, it has actually been that sort of, real sort of key area that I could actually develop. And that has been quite a source of inspiration for me in continuing on that journey. And then obviously, being able to be myself and to, really be all of me and really sort of, be that inspiration to me, that's then actually created that inspiration for the people who are in my world as well. So it's kind of been, I'm looking at others and I'm learning from them, and then I'm obviously following what's going to be true for my path, and then that's inspiring them, and it's kind of this cycle where we're all learning off each other and being able to, develop. But I think, the most influential person has probably been myself in actually staying true to that path in life, and even when it has been challenging.
Yeah, and that's I will say that that's the first time we've gotten that answer. And why I asked the question, because everybody has a different answer, and there is no right or wrong for for myself and the audience, it's an opportunity for people to understand that there are many different facets of influential people in your lives. And sometimes it's yourself. Sometimes it's a family member, it's a former teacher, it's a former coach, it's a former boss, it's just a family friend or a close friend. But everybody has different people to influence them and what they do. And that's a great answer. I mean, and as you explained it, I'm like, well, I guess I could use that too. But so many people. But I love that answer. It's a great answer. I mean, I never thought about it that way till you explained it. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, thank
Now,
you.
this next part is all about you promoting yourself, what you're doing, how they can get your book, how they can get a free discovery session with you, and how they can email you.
Oh, look, thank you, Antoine. So I would love people to be able to get a copy of my book. It is on my website. It's also on Amazon, but yeah, jump onto the website. There's the ebook there. There's also the hard copy version that you can buy. I do have the opportunity that I would love to be able to sort of share with your listeners to book in that free discovery session with me. Let's have a one-on-one chat around what it is for your personal circumstances. How can I potentially help your child? How can we actually develop your child and be able to help them grow and expand? So being able to have that conversation, and there's no obligation for it. Let's book in a time. Let's have a chat around, what we can do. And yeah, there's definitely all that information there. On my website, which is Sapling Minds, so SAPLING, like the little sapling tree, saplingminds, minds.com.au. Yeah, please jump on there, have a bit of a look. You can see various different articles that I've written that are available on the website. It's got all of the links to my books. It's got the links for the free discovery session. There's a lot of resources and information that is available for parents on the website. So yeah, I would love people to jump on there, have a bit of a look, grab a copy of the book while you're there.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Aliesha. I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been a great conversation, and I hope that we can stay connected, maybe have a follow-up interview, when your next book comes out or right before it comes out, or any other opportunity you want to come back on and share. All you have to do is reach out. Would love to have you back on.
Look, I would love that, Antoine. Let's definitely stay in touch, and there will be more coming through. So whether we wait that long or whether we just have another catch up and just have a wonderful chat again.
Oh, I would love to do that. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Aliesha. As well as for you that don't know, I also co-host a podcast called Teens Speak, Empowering Today's Youth. It's a podcast for teens, about teens, and starring teens. And I do that with my good friend Keith Senzer, who is also a youth leadership and empowerment coach. We interview middle school, high school, and college students. And if you want to be a guest or know someone that would like to be a guest on, Keith and I have a guest form on our websites. His is shiftyourpower.com and mine is coachtcorner.com. We would love to have you and or your child, or your child on, I should say. If you're a parent and want to come on and talk about developing tomorrow's leaders, you could always reach out to me at coachtcorner.com. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, it takes a village to raise the next generation of leaders, and that's who we are. We are developing tomorrow's leaders. I'm Coach T. And again, thank you, Aliesha, for your time. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day in Australia as my night starts to wind down.
Thank you, Antoine. It's been fantastic having a chat. I've loved it. And yes, I am so looking forward to the next time we connect.
Absolutely. Thank you. Until our next episode, I'm Coach T. Take care.
Thank you.
Be sure to check out Coach T's Empowering Teens for Success section of his website. Here you will find a range of low-content digital products that are designed to empower, support, and inspire preteens, teens, and parents. His products are focused on personal growth, skill building, and empowerment, and are designed to provide students and parents with the tools they need to succeed in all aspects of life. From confidence and communication to positive mindset and mental health, Coach T's digital products cover a range of important topics that are essential for success. Just go to coachtcorner.com and click on Empowering Teens for Success.